This is Mark Kearney and Frank Kearney on August 22nd up in Stampede. And we're going to do an old timers kind of interview and stuff. And I was suggesting first we talk about how McCarthy turned into Kearney.
Yeah. So I've taken a Y chromosome DNA test, and you can do different levels of markers. So I did the maximum, which is I believe 111. So I matched up with somebody exactly on the 111. And what I've read is that both of you are related to somebody not more than 4 generations back.
Directly.
Yeah, directly. So you're descended from somebody 4 generations back. So this guy had a tree, and it went back to a Tim McCarthy. And then I checked some of the ancestry matches, and I got a bunch of them that were related to this Tim McCarthy. So in theory, I kind of think this Timothy McCarthy is David Kearney's father. I guess there's a slight possibility he could be an uncle, but I don't think so. I think it's his father. And in the 1870 census and the 1880 census, he's working for the railroad. I think in 1870s in Pennsylvania, and in 1880s he's in Indiana. But looking at some of his children back that were born in the 1860s, early 60s, late 50s. They were born in Indiana, and then some of the later ones were born in Pennsylvania.
Who are we talking about?
Timothy McCarthy and his family.
Okay. So, and David Kearney was?
I believe, I don't know it for 100%, but just going off the DNA and the Y chromosome, I think he was our grandfather's father, or great-grandfather's father, which make him a great-great-grandfather.
Right. So the name changed from McCarthy to Kearney for some reason. We don't know why.
Yeah. Or McCarthy had an illegitimate child. That's another possibility. But I can't seem to find the McCarthy in the 1860 census. I was thinking if I could find him in the 1860 census, I would either see David with him there, because he would have been like 12 or 15 years old, somewhere in that range. But I can't seem to find that census, him in that census. So, and I can't find David Kearney in that census either. So,
well, the other question that we were talking about up here about railroads and stuff, we're talking about how the Finnegans moved around with the railroad. And I guess...
Well, they started out in Vermont.
Yeah.
And then Francis Finnegan in 1880 came out here. In the 1880 census, I can find Jane Finnegan, because she's living in Vermont, Hyde Park, with the whole family except for Francis Finnegan. But that was about the time he was coming out here, so probably traveling on the train, he probably didn't get counted on the census. And he came out here and came to Reno first, and he was coming out with his nephew. I think he was coming out with Peter Finnegan, his nephew Peter Finnegan. And I think Martin Finnegan was already out here. I may be getting the two mixed up, but
okay.
Yeah. And I think he was working in in the timber business. And Francis Finnegan came out here, and somebody that he was either met in Reno or was riding out with is, they were talking about there was jobs there in Truckee. Some lumber jobs, and they came to Truckee, but there'd been a bunch of snow and stuff, so that hadn't started up yet. So then he started working, I think, one of the snow sheds. I don't know if it collapsed or needed work, but he ended up working up there for a short period of time. And about the time that ended, the lumber business started up. So he went to work for the lumber companies. And I don't know what he was doing at first, but he was able to keep track of the wood count and stuff, and they liked that because he kind of knew the inventory of what they had. So he finally got into being kind of like a bookkeeper, keeping track of the lumber they had and wood they had.
Now, who's this?
This is Francis Finnegan.
Okay.
And he did that for quite a while, and finally brought the family out. And they were there in the Martis Valley area and working there for several years. But none of the kids were going to school because the school was in Truckee, and that was too far for them to go. And they didn't like the fact that they weren't getting any schooling. So then they moved back to Vermont. And were there for a few years, and then what I've read in Francis Finnegan's biography, that they just decided the winters were too tough in Vermont there, which kind of makes me laugh a little bit because I kind of think the winters in Truckee aren't a piece of cake. So it seemed funny that they would move back to Truckee after that. And then when they moved back, they actually lived in Truckee too. So kids were able to go to school. And they were going to school there when they were back in Hyde Park too.
So, okay, well, this move time was what, 1880s?
Yeah. I think he went back there 87, and I think he came back here in like 89.
Okay, and settled down and built a home right there on the Truckee River, right near the bridge, just downstream, maybe, but three houses downstream on the Truckee side of the river.
Yeah. In my understanding, they had some property along the Truckee River, kind of close to where our grandfather's chicken ranch was, and he would kind of use it, cut wood off of it for firewood and stuff. And I think there for a few years he had a dairy, basically just kind of keep the kids busy. It sounded like to me. Because when the kids were all growing up, he sold it off, and I think he sold that property to the Jurgers.
Oh, you think it's that property inside of town that's still around? Oh,
no,
somewhere.
That's a different property, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because my understanding, this was real close to the chicken ranch, just across the river, I think.
Ah, okay. Which reminds me, are you familiar with the water pump that Frank Kearney had up there?
Well, I've heard the story about it. I'm not really familiar with it.
Do you know how it worked? Or
no.
Do you know what it was? Or?
I think it worked off of the hydraulics of the water. But
yeah, the air, that's my understanding. The air would fill up the top and it turned around, and just because it was stirring and stuff, all the air would go up to the top, and it would bring the bottom, or somehow it would pump water. Yeah. And it pumped it probably 120 feet, if not more, up to their home. And I remember Philip telling me that every once in a while somebody had to go out there when it stopped and started spinning again. But it's a phenomena. It's I forget what the name of it is, but it is a phenomena, and it worked for him very well.
Yeah. This is kind of
Go ahead.
diverting off of Francis Finnegan a little bit, but that chicken ranch, it just kind of amazes me. Those chicken houses were 2-story chicken houses. It just seemed, I've never seen that before, where somebody had an upper level and a lower level, for a chicken coop, And my understanding, certain times of the year, he'd have like 2,000 chickens or so.
And this is in the coldest part. Sometimes in Boca, which is a few miles away from the chicken ranch just east, they had a national cold thing of 34 below, something like that. And he was raising chickens in 0 degrees there.
My understanding is the reason why Boca's so cold is just where it sits, the cold air comes down there. And that's where they had a lot of those ice things, though, too. So.
And we had relatives that worked the ice fields there in Boca once upon a time. They still have remnants of the warming ovens. They would keep the warming ovens there in case somebody fell in. If they fell in, they used to die, but with these warming ovens that they built, they'd put somebody in there for 2 or 3 hours and they'd be okay and didn't freeze to death, and they'd be out there working in 3 or 4 hours. That was my understanding. Still remnants of that there, along with other remnants, historical features.
Yeah. Now I got to kind of jump back to our great-grandfather David Kearney. The story with him is he came out working for the Union Pacific from the east side. And the Union Pacific had mainly Irish workers working, doing a lot of the labor stuff. And then the Central Pacific mainly were using Chinese for a lot of their labor, going from the west towards the east. And so he worked his way out, and then, my understanding, met our grandmother there at
Ogden.
What's the name of the place where the 2 railroads met?
Ogden?
No,
Ogden,
it's I want to say Provo. It's not Provo. It's where they drove the Golden Spike. Why not?
Okay. On May 9th, May 10th, May 11th of 1869.
Yeah. Supposedly they got married then too. One of the things in the 1870 census on that, it says they got married in August, so I don't know. But the family story is they got married
At the day before the Golden Spike.
Yeah.
Crocker didn't show up, and so they had to wait for him to show up to nail in the Golden Spike or hammer it in, and he missed it. Didn't hit it. Anyway, so the story goes.
Yeah. So he had what I think Tom Kearney was born in, I can't remember if he was born in 1880 or 1881, but basically year after they were married.
He was the oldest.
Yeah. And they were married in 69. So.
And then the next one was Mary Kearney?
Mary, yeah.
I'm not sure about her. Both of them, Tom and Mary, were adopted by a Mormon family in Utah.
Yeah, they were actually relatives.
Okay, relatives.
Yeah, some of the Spencers. It's one of the Hampton girls married actually 2 of the Hampton girls married a Spencer, but one of them died soon after they came here from England, and then he married the other one.
Yeah, younger daughter.
Yeah. and they were very much Mormons.
Yeah, Latter-day Saints. And that was in what year do you figure that was? That was early LDS.
1854. I think they got there in 1853. So
Okay. So they were already in Salt Lake.
yeah, yeah. When they took them, it was I think like 1880, and they were probably like 8 years old. I think our grandfather was born in
74.
74, so he would have been like 8 years old.
Yeah. And he stayed behind.
Who stayed behind?
Francis Kearney. Stayed with the mother.
Yeah, the mother then went back to Truckee. She was in Utah at that time, and she left the other two kids. I think there's a story about that where the train for her to go came, and she just left the kids there to meet the other relatives. So they were there just on their own for a little while. I think that was a little bit of a bone of contention with Mary a little bit.
Left him at the train station.
Yeah.
So she moved to Truckee and became a worker on the crew. Would cook and clean for crews that took care of the train tracks up there by the
My understanding, there was some housing for the railroad workers that was kind of not being used, and she ended up staying in that, and so she started doing the laundry, and a lot of the railroad people had her doing their laundry for them, paying her to do that. And that's how she was making money to live on. And then I think she got more established. Then I think finally they live in it. I think our grandfather started going to work for the box factory. I think they finally got enough money that I think they purchased that where the chicken ranch was. And I think he might have been switched over to working at the roundhouse for the railroad because he worked there for a while too. And I think he'd work there nights and then do the chicken ranch during the day and get to sleep during the day too.
Oh, I didn't know he started it that early in his life.
No, he had it kind of going when he got married there in 1900.
Yeah, I know that.
And then I think he finally got it expanded enough that he was able to, quit working for the railroad and do the chicken stuff full time.
They originally lived up on the tracks along the snow shed area, which in a place that was known as Lakeview. Probably when he was 8 or 9 years old at that time, until they came down and he started working at the box factory, and they got this place down there in town.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure when they got that property that the chicken ranch was on, but I would assume it was probably late 1890s.
And his mother lived there until her death. There was a special place for her that her son had for her when she passed in 1912. She's buried above the chicken ranch.
I kind of think she probably had cataracts because I've read stuff where it was talking about she couldn't read anymore. Eyesight was gone, and I kind of suspect it was from cataracts and then just, you need reading glasses, but they had reading glasses back then. But if you have cataracts on top of that, it makes it a little tough.
Yeah. And that kind of common surgery today wasn't available.
Yeah. No, back then there's nothing they could do about cataracts.
Old age was hard. Well, we've talked enough. You got anything else?
No.
Let's see what it sounds like.
Okay.
See how embarrassed we are. 20 minutes.